everybody, it's me, Undead Viking. I'm here to tell you about a really unique and challenging game that I've been playing called I Spy. I Spy, I don't even know how to really explain this to you. I Spy is a game that definitely has its roots in like the Euro kind of resource card-driven game world, but it is more than that. It is a game of subterfuge, as you can probably guess, with the name of Spy in the name. It is a game of subterfuge and bluffing and counter-bluffing, and it's got a lot of really interesting things going on when you play the game. And I will be more than happy to show those to you here in just a minute when I show you how to play the game. Basically, the theme of the game is that each person, up to 4 players, is a spy in like pre-World War I Europe, and you represent your country, and nobody knows. You get handed one of 6 countries, like the Republic of France or the German Empire or the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And you are working for them in secret, and you are trying to cultivate power and influence for them in this like very like I said, pre-World War I era of the world. And you do that through the use of cards and all these other things. And the big thing is that you kind of want your country to do well, but you don't want everybody to know exactly what you're doing, if you will. So it's one of those weird things, because if everybody flat out knows that, like, say, you're for the English Empire, and they're gonna watch you like a hawk, and they're gonna make sure that you don't do anything like overtly, to do that. They're gonna crush your attempts. And so what happens is that you kind of have to, like, do a little bait and switch, it's like, and so you kind of bring things along. And there's some other secret things that you can do. There's these politicians that get scored on like a turn-by-turn basis, and like you can move like politicians that support your cause into places of power, and then once they're revealed, because they're kept secret until they're revealed, then like you gain those points. And it may sound a little confusing to you as I'm explaining it, but trust me, the game is like got a lot of weird ins and outs and a lot of clever little things that you do. And one of the really cool things about the game, and you'll see this when I show you, is that each person has the same deck of cards that they use to navigate around the board and do their actions. And the cards themselves will actually add influence to the different empires. And so even though, like say you're for the English Empire, you'll need to move quickly. So you'll use a card that will actually like give Germany influence. But you have to do that because you need to actually be able to get to the spot that you need to be or whatever to take an action on the board or what have you. And so there's this wonderful seesaw of resources where you have to kind of have weigh the ends and justifying the means kind of thing, and then putting yourself in a position to win. So even though you're helping your teammate a little bit, hopefully you're helping yourself more. And that's the weird little brain-burning puzzle that the game presents that I really, really enjoyed. But enough about that. I'll talk more about that when I do a conclusion. But let me show you briefly. Okay, well, it won't be brief, you know me. But let me show you how the game is. Let me show you how the game is played, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you exactly what I think of I Spy. All right, cool. This is the game I Spy, and this is the prototype that I was given. So please take that into account when you are looking at this, because while this game might look a lot like what the final game looks like, these are not going to be the final components or exactly how the final game is going to look. However, the game it does look pretty cool in my opinion, and is very playable in the one I had. So as you can tell, this is the map of Europe, and this is, as I said, in just before World War I. And so you can see there's England, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy, and Russia. And each one of the players, the 4 players you can see are in their starting locations here, will represent one of those particular locations, because they will be given one of these little tokens randomly beginning of the game. So, like, you know, this one says your alignment is the Russian Empire, and so forth. And so there's one for each of those, and each person gets one, and that does not change for the rest of the game. You can be outed if you get if you're very unlucky, and somebody might find out who you're backing, but that is a rarity. You can see that there are several different like little train tracks and what have you, and you'll be using cards to do different actions, including move. And so you just move from spot to spot depending on how many spots you have to move. There's also these airships that allow you to travel from location to location. So like if you were in this spot and you use an airship, you could travel to here with one move. If you were in an airship like in this spot and use an airship, you could go from there to there, or there to there, or so on and so forth. These little spots here, these are like little supply caches that are, these are influence that you collect, and influence are used to hire assets, which are these cards. Assets, here, I'll just show you one real quick. Assets are just like people that you have working for you that give you power. So like this one would cost 7 influence to purchase, and it's an export officer, and you receive an additional 2 tickets. Those are train tickets that allow you to move whenever during your turn. So basically having the export officer as your lackey it gives you the ability to have 2 extra moves. So that's pretty good power, right? But it costs you 7 influence. And you start with 4, and you can collect more by getting to these spots to collect them, or by using cards and different actions and what have you. So, as I said, these are the little 4 starting locations. Each person will get one of these decks of cards that have the actions on them. There's some special actions that you can gain later in the game if you get certain assets, certain people that follow you. If you are player number 1, you get the initiative card to start with, and that means you start off first, and that can change hands very easily, once again, through actions. Down here you can see the total influence that each nation has. Start with each one starts with 4, and as you as the game continues, like you will these amounts will rise and fall as the game continues, directly through the actions of each player on their turn. Now over here and around, like up here and around and over, these are the politicians, and politicians are very important because as you get to these locations here, you will resolve the politicians. And politicians, I'll just show you one of these over here. Politicians will either grant more of these cubes. You can see here, like Edward Grey, when you reveal him, he'll give 3 to the Russian Empire, he'll give 2 to the British Empire, and he'll give 1 to the German Empire. And so we have this one, Joseph Caillaux, you know, 3 to this is 3 to the German Empire, 2 to the French Empire, and 1 to the Roman Empire, I guess. And it's not Italian, and there are some, and I'm going to try to find one here. Hold on. There are some, like here, Giovanni. He'll actually take away, 3 from the British and 3 from the German, and then each spy in Italy may take, 3 extra of those 3 extra coins, to use to purchase. So there's different ones that'll do different abilities, but that's pretty much what they do. So at the beginning of the game, these are the politicians that are in the shadows. They're kind of waiting to be possibly moved into place, moved into positions of power. Each person will take one of these little tokens that represents they have power over them, and they'll place it on a politician, and then they get to look at it. And so, like, I just picked this one. So here we have Nikolai II. Each spy with a control token here may do this, and what that is control. So and control allows you to once again put one of these tokens on a politician. So when he would be revealed, if he was used, anybody that had one on there, and you notice that there's spots for 3 of them on there. Each person that had some sort of control over Nikolai would be able to take his power. So each person will pick one at the beginning of the game, like so, and they can look at those, obviously, but you can't look at them unless you have your token on them. So there you have 4 on there. And so then the game would begin. And so you'd take the round marker and you're at round 1, and so you notice you go round 1, round 2, and then round 3, you actually do the scoring phase and process what's been going on. So on your turn, you have to take 2 card actions, and then if you are actually if you make it at some point in your turn, if you go into a capital, you can take a capital action that doesn't count against one of your 2 card actions. And then you have to either, if you go into the capital and you do a contact action, then that would be your 3rd action. But if you don't do a contact action, you do a retrieval action. And a retrieval action means that you get to take a card back that you've played earlier. And it doesn't have to be so much that round, because you'll notice there's first round, then second round, then third. In the second round, if you did a retrieval action, you could take back a card that you placed in the first, and so on and so forth. Once you do a scoring phase, however, all the cards that you use come back to your hand. It's important to remember that, because once you use a card, you can't use it. So everybody's got these cards, and you'll notice that the colors of them match up with the different nations. And you'll notice on the top of them, you'll see that this is actually giving influence to, if you use this one, it says airship line, move along an airship route. And so you can actually, there's a little icon there. But if you use it, once they do a scoring phase and you resolve this card, the Kingdom of Italy is going to get 2 points of influence. So like over here, the overnight line, which is something everybody uses a lot actually, because of the fact that there's the 4 tickets on there, 4 train tickets. You get to move 4 spaces. Germany will get 3 for that. And so on your turn, you have to look and see what you want to do. And so like if you take like overnight line, you play that out like so. I'm going to take that, and then if maybe you want to get over to Budapest and maybe grab this particular this guy, but maybe it's this player right here. And so they say 1, 2, 3. They're going to pick that up, so they get that extra coin, and they move back here to 4. And so now they're looking at they look at their hand again, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to use the courier line, because it has 2 tickets. And if you take a contact action, which means that you're contacting the spy in a capital, you get to receive 2 awards instead of 1. So normally you only get to pick one of those things. So they're going to do that, and they go 1. They don't have to take their full movement. If you're in a spot that hooks up to the this little area here that hooks up to the capital, you can then just move your person in there. Now notice how there's 2 spots in that location. That means there can be 2 people in that capital. Normally you can't go through somebody. That blocks you. The only difference is in the capital there can be more than 1 person depending on how many spots are available. And with an airship, you can actually land on somebody and you force them out, and you actually give them what's called a tag, which is a bad thing. I'll explain that in just a moment. But anyway, so like this person, they go there, they take their action. Now, since they're going to do a contact, immediately you can notice there's a German flag right there. Immediately what you do is you'd add 1 to Germany, because that's, unlike the cards, you don't add them right away. But with this one, you do add it immediately. Now, notice there's 5 in there. So what you do is you take those 5 out there and you add a big one, and then that is a 5. And every time you get to 5, you trade them out. There's a reason for that, and I'll explain that when we get to the scoring phase. So, but here's the 2 actions. You can do a recruit, and you can do recruit or, I can't read, or empower are the 2 options that you have in that location. Remember, we did the thing where we can actually do both. So recruit allows you to take a look at the assets that are available in this particular spot. And we have 5, remember we picked up, so like here's an informant for 4. When you trace a spy, receives an additional tag. That's neat. And it's like logistics, whenever you resolve overnight, you may gain 3 tickets. Well, that's a pretty good one, actually. So we're going to take that one. So you pay their 4, and then you permanently get that asset, and you get to place that in front of you, and you have that available to you. But you also now you get to do the empower action as well. When you take the empower action, what you are able to do is you're able to take a politician, any of them technically, but usually you end up using the ones that you already know somebody about. So in this case, it would be in the shadows, and you get to take a politician and you get to swap it with another one. And so remember, we have this one, and it's like here we have, it's like, for whatever reason, Edward House, it's like the nation with the least influence gains 8 influence. And so maybe you're under the impression that in this case, you just for like you don't think that he's for the Russian Empire, and he thinks the Russian Empire isn't going to get enough, and everybody else isn't going to get enough more, if you will. And so he can take that and he can place it somewhere else. Now he can place it, right here, and then he knows it's going to happen soon. But maybe it's like a situation where forethought, like trying to like think ahead. But let's just, for whatever, because just place it there. And then you take this one. He has no idea what that one is. Maybe it would have been really good for the Russian Empire. Who knows? But he takes that and you places it over there, and then we can move. At that point, just that is the swap that you do. That's what Empower does. Some of the other actions that you can do, like here is a resupply. You can get one of these tokens. Here is like a control that allows you to look at one of the pick a politician, put a marker on him, and then look at him. You can here you get to recruit, and look through this deck here, or get 2 tickets. Empower or recruit, so you get to look through there. Scandalize actually allows you to just get rid of a politician. Like when you do that, you take a politician that maybe like doesn't help you at all, that you found out about, and you scandalize them, and then you remove them and you replace them with another politician. You have no idea what they are, but chances are maybe they're better than what you have. Once again, you can get a token there, and here you can control, which we've gone over already. Or you can say In the Wind. And In the Wind allows you to take the initiative card from whoever has it, even yourself, and you can give it to anybody else. You choose to take it yourself. You can give it to the person across the table from you. You can give it to somebody so you will last. It's up to you as far as whatever you want to do. So what happens then is that each person is going to take their actions, and they're going to move around the board. They're going to collect these tokens, and they're going to get into different capitals and whatever. And, these are going to gain tokens and lose them, so I'm placing these randomly. I don't know exactly if this would be exactly how it turns out or not, but, just, have some fun here and just throw some tokens down. So, all right, so maybe, that's, I forgot about France. So maybe that's how it ended up, after all was said and done. And, so now, after we go through these different turns, you get to the scoring phase, and what will happen is that you will then everybody collects the cards that they played. And so here, let me just grab 2 more here. It's kind of random. Here, let's say we grabbed, so these were the 4 cards that he had. And so each person will then announce like how many cubes each one of these will add. So add 3 to blue. So 1 would take us to 5. So we remove that, place that, and then 2 of those, 2 to red. And so once again, we're going to end up putting 1 on there and removing 3. 1 to brown, British Empire, and 3 to Germany. Germany had 5 on that. I did that by mistake. So you add 3 to Germany. So ends up like that. And so each one would then do that, and so like that would all be said and done. And so now we've figured out exactly, and they're supposed to be different. Obviously, each person would have cards that would do things as well. And so then after all of that is done, you would resolve the politicians. So like you turn over this politician, and King George V adds 3 to the British Empire. Each spy with a control token here may do another control action. Well, we didn't have that, so we're going to add 3 to the British Empire, like so. And then we turn this one over for the politician we already know, the Edward House. Whoever's in the last place gains 8, and so we knew what that was. And so, the Russian Empire is in last, so we'll add 8 to it like that. And then we score. And so first place gets 5, second place gets 4, third place gets 3rd, fourth place gets 2, and fifth place gets 1. And so you look and you see like who's got the most. we have 10, 13, 10, 13, 10, 12, 16 for the Kingdom of Italy, looks like 13 for the German Empire, and 9 for the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So obviously the first one's going to be the Kingdom of Italy, and so they get 5 points. Now this is where it's weird, because you're scoring the different empires, so you're kind of scoring, but you're scoring yourself. But remember, there's 2 empires that don't have anybody allied with them, or even less if you're playing with less than 4 people. And so maybe the Kingdom of Italy, nobody's actually running it. So it's one of those weird things. So, and then we have 3 actually that tied with 13, and so they'll all get those points. So let's see here. So both Germany and Germany and Russia and the British Empire all get 4 points, and so you put them all at 4. Well, then what happens is you actually then, because you have 2 more, so you don't give out anything for 3rd place, and you don't give anything out for 4th place, but you do give out something for 5th. And so you have 12 for France, and you have 9 for Austria-Hungary. So France gets 1 point, and Austria-Hungary gets 0. And that's how that would shake out. Now, as the game progresses, obviously these are going to increase, because like here's 5 top scores, 5 here, it goes up to 7 here, and then it gets all the way up to 10 over here. And so it gets more and more important that you be the highest number on the as far as the influence goes. The last thing you do is you look at the nation that has the least number of these giant ones, and you remove 1. And then you remove 1 from all of them, just so you can kind of bring everything back down, and you have lots of cubes still available to you over here. And so then you start up with your next turn, and you move on to the next turn, and you're going to do that same process again. Now, the only thing I didn't show you, and that's pretty much how you played. Oh, and obviously then the cards that you used go back into your hand. Now, the only thing I didn't really show you is that you have these things, these actions that have the tags on them. And so, like here you have choose an adjacent spy with tag. You can steal up to 2 coins from that spy. If that spy has no coins, you may just take get a coin as well. Now, the big thing is how do you get those on those people? And the big thing that you do is you use this trace ability. Choose an adjacent spy, that spy receives 2 tags. Or choose an adjacent spy with 5 tags, and then you get to look at that spy's alignment token. Now, you can sometimes choose as a, let me just see here, like if you have evade, lose 1, 2, or 3 tags, which, okay, good, you get rid of them. But if you select this action for retrieval action, you receive a tag. So, like, maybe you can get rid of 3 but keep 1 because you took it back into your hand because maybe you didn't want the British Empire to get that influence. If you do a sabotage, which is a great way to hurt somebody, because if you get to the capital and you use the sabotage card, you get to take away a ton of influence. The only one you can't do that to is Roman Empire, the Kingdom of Italy, because of the fact that obviously, you can do it, but notice how they'll eventually get 2 unless you do retrieve. So you may take away 5, but you'll have to give back 2 usually. But if you do that when you're not in a capital, you receive a tag. Now, so that's one of those things where it's let me see here. There's one thing that is cool as far as like this one, the private line. You can move 3 with the private line, and you may choose to take a tag to gain 2 extra movement. So that's one of those things where you can actually decide that you're going to, if you really have to get somewhere, you're gonna decide that it's worth it to take a tag just so you can get that as extra 2 movement. And so, and that's one of those things that just adds that kind of neat decision that this game just seems to have a lot of. Oh, and I did forget one last thing. After you do a scoring phase, you do go ahead and you add 1 new asset card to each of these locations. So you get some fresh new assets in case the ones that are out there aren't things you either afford or that you want. and then you can go ahead and but that's one of those things that you also do as well when you get to those scoring phases. But there you go. I mean that's pretty much how you you play the game. You will continue obviously until you get to all 14 rounds. At that point, whichever nation is in the lead wins. And then whoever is controlling that nation wins the game. If nobody controls the nation that wins, obviously you just go to the first team or the first group that the first nation that is actually one of the players is allied to, and that is the winner of the game. So, all right. Well, let me tell you exactly what I think of I Spy here in my conclusion. Okay, so there you go. That is how you play I Spy. It definitely is a game that, like, the first time you play it, you'll probably play the entire game, and then you'll just be kind of like, what happened? Like it won't really click for you until like the second time you play it. I remember the first time I played it, and they definitely, like, because of all the different parts and pulleys and bells and whistles that you had to do, it didn't really like my strategies and my understanding of what you needed to do to win didn't really click into place until the next time that I played it. And then I kind of built off that first experience, and then the game kind of really, the layer of the outside layer of the onion kind of fell away, and I got to see the different layers of the game and the different things that I could do and the interesting little choices they make. There's nothing really one of the things I really like is that, like, you can play a card that's going to give, like, say, 4 influence to the German Empire. And you go and do your next turn. And, this is one of those turns later where it's like 3 turns before you do a scoring phase. And so you're kind of using up your action cards. And then you take you take that action to pull the card back and put it in your hand just prior to scoring. And so you have your opponents that are sitting there and one of them is looking at that and they're like, oh great, I'm going to get a lot of influence from that, and this, that, and over there. And all of a sudden you pull it back and they're like, oh no, I needed that, And so, it's one of those, like, awesome, like, little tidbits, things that you can do as you're playing the game that really really sells it for me. Just kind of like, pulling the rug out from underneath somebody. That's a lot of fun. I mean, as far as the game itself, there really isn't a lot of direct conflict. It's because, well, you're spies. Spies don't go around, pew, 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 pew. That only happens in, like, the ending of James Bond movies, usually. But what these are is more, it's you trying to hold everybody else down while trying to bring up your own side, and trying to stop, and then everybody else is doing the exact same thing. And so it's kind of like whoever does the best at, like, using their cards in the best possible situations, in the best possible moments, using those different capitals for optimal moves and what have you. The initiative card is actually one of the, like, the ability to, like, take that card, and not so much just take it so you play first, but to, like, give it to somebody else, like, is one of the more interesting things also that I found with the game, because it didn't always behoove you to go first. I actually like going last more in this game, because I like seeing what other people are doing. I like seeing what actions they were taking. I mean, sometimes it was, it was better to go first. I mean, kind of maybe in the beginning of the game where you're trying to get your footholds and stuff like that, getting assets and what have you. But later on in the game, it really is better to let everybody else kind of do their thing, and then you can react to what they do. And you definitely can start figuring out which side they're on. And when I'm saying that, one of the really good things that they decided when they designed this game was that there's 6 sides but only 4 people. And that means that there's 2 empires or nations that aren't being affected at all. I mean, they're being affected, but nobody cares one way or the other. But you're going to start thinking that maybe somebody does, because, like, if nobody has France, but all of a sudden, like, France is getting tons of influence, you're starting to figure out, well, who's giving all this influence to France? And then you're sitting there, all of a sudden you're checking out, and then you get to the end of the game, you realize nobody had them, and nobody cared, but you're sure somebody's got to, and, like, what you didn't realize that everybody else at the table was sure somebody at the table was rooting for them as well. That's, like, one of the really cool, fun things about the game is that, and what a great decision they made too when they designed the game to, like, you know, not to leave that vagary, I guess, out there as well. I did like the fact that you can start, like, you know, putting the little tags on the other spies to, you know, like, kind of start to get them scared and you know, maybe possibly out them. I never outed anybody. It seems like whenever anybody would get close to getting that 5 tags, which would allow you to, like, do that, it seems like they always find a way to get rid of some, you know, so they you know, but which is good, because that means they're wasting their actions to do that instead of doing things to, like, actually help them in the long run, kind of thing. You know, I did like the fact that, like, you could take the tags yourself. And it was one of those things where it's like the risk reward that I was referring to earlier. You know, it's like, well, I'm gonna do it because, you know, whatever. You know, it's like I need that extra bit of movement or what have you. You know, for that action, to be able to pull that off. So, you know, I mean, I guess, like, if you like games with kind of hidden sides, I think this is a game that you're really going to like. If you like espionage type games, I think this is a game you're really going to like. And if you're a fan of any kind of, like, card-driven, like, not really area control, but definitely a card-driven, like it isn't research. It's kind of a game of its own. It's tough to describe, but I mean, it is kind of like just a power struggle. If you're a fan of, like, a card driven power struggle type of game, you know, I definitely think you're gonna like this one. So I invite you to go over to the I Spy Kickstarter, check it out on Board Game Geek, research it, take a look at it. You know, it really is kind of a game that I've never really played before, and for that reason I really enjoyed it. It's just, after playing so many games over the last, like, 5, 6, 7 years, it's kind of neat to get one that has elements of other games that I've played. But, you know, but I've never had them put together into a game like this before. And I, you know, like, for that, and, like, I really dug the theme, and I really just kind of, I really dug just the way that I interacted with my opponents as I played the game. I found that to be a very, very fun and a very enjoyable time. So, there you go. That was I Spy. I invite you to go ahead and ask me any questions you may have, and I'll be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day.